The champagne glass felt like a weapon in my hand as I watched my wife flirt with her ex-boyfriend at our New Year's Eve party. Not our party, actually. Monica's party. Everything in our lives had become Monica's something over the past 3 years. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Gideon, darling, come meet Jules. Monica's voice cut through the penthouse chatter like a rusty blade. She was practically glowing, her hand resting on Julian Marwood's forearm with the kind of closeness that made my stomach clench. You remember me mentioning Jules, don't you? Oh, I remembered. Jules Marwood, the celebrity chef who owned 3 overpriced restaurants in Manhattan. The ex-boyfriend who really understood Monica's artistic vision and who she'd been texting at all hours for the past 6 months. The same Jules who was now looking at me like I was something he'd scrape off his Italian leather shoes. The investment banker, Jules said, extending a manicured hand. His grip was deliberately weak, dismissive. Monica's told me so much about you. I bet she had. My wife had a talent for making my career sound like the most boring thing on earth. 40 years old, senior analyst at Morrison & Associates, pulling down $200,000 a year. But apparently that wasn't exciting enough for Monica's Instagram lifestyle. Jules just opened his 3rd restaurant, Monica gushed, her fingers now tracing patterns on his sleeve. The Times gave it 4 stars. 4 stars, Gideon. Congratulations, I said, taking a large gulp of champagne. The bubbles burned my throat. Must be nice having people pay premium prices for tiny portions. And Jules laughed, but his eyes stayed cold. Not everyone appreciates culinary artistry. Some people just want their meat and potatoes, right, Monica? They shared a look. One of those intimate, knowing glances that married couples are supposed to share. Except I was the married one here, standing 3 feet away like a piece of furniture. Oh, Jules, you're terrible, Monica giggled. Actually giggled like some teenager. At 37, my wife had perfected the art of selective immaturity. Gideon doesn't understand creative passion. He thinks everything should fit in a spreadsheet. The party swirled around us. Monica's influencer friends, minor celebrities, people who made their living convincing others that their lives were worth watching. I recognized most of them from Monica's Instagram stories. Haley Chen, Monica's supposed best friend, was filming everything on her phone. Serena Walsh, the gossip blogger, was already typing notes into her device. They were all watching this little drama unfold. I should mingle, I said, but Monica grabbed my arm. Don't be antisocial, honey. Jules was just telling me about his new cookbook deal. Random House wants him to do a whole series. How wonderful, I said. Another celebrity chef telling people how to cook food they'll never be able to afford. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the background music seemed to pause. Jules's face darkened, and Monica's grip on my arm tightened to the point of pain. Gideon, she hissed through her perfect smile. Why don't you get us some more champagne? It was a dismissal. In my own home, well, the home I paid for, I was being dismissed so my wife could continue her public foreplay with her ex-boyfriend. I looked around the room and saw the faces, some pitying, some amused, all of them watching the show. Actually, I said, loud enough for the nearby guests to hear, I think I've had enough. I pulled off my wedding ring, the platinum band that had cost me 3 months' salary, and dropped it into my champagne glass. The metal clinked against the crystal, and the bubbles immediately surrounded it like tiny champagne pearls. There, I said, setting the glass on the nearest table. At least the bubbles will keep it company. Monica's face went white, then red. Gideon, what are you? But I was already walking away, pushing through the crowd of influencers and wannabes. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting, phones coming out to record the aftermath. Monica's perfect party was about to become very imperfect. I grabbed my coat from the bedroom and headed for the door. As I waited for the elevator, my phone buzzed. A text from Monica. Don't be childish. Grow up. Childish. That's what she called it when someone finally stood up to her public humiliation. I stared at the message as the elevator descended 40 floors, my mind already working on a response that would make her New Year's Eve look like a gentle warm-up. By the time I reached the lobby, I wasn't just angry anymore. I was calculating. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my home office, the one room in our apartment that Monica never bothered to redecorate, and started digging. Not hacking, nothing illegal or dramatic, just using the access I already had to our shared digital life. The iPad we both used was sitting on the kitchen counter, logged into Monica's Instagram account. Her direct messages were a gold mine of betrayal. Screenshots of our private conversations sent to her friends with commentary like, Look what the boring husband said today, and God, I married my father. Photos of me sleeping, captioned extra weight. But it was the messages with Jules that made my hands shake. Not just flirting, detailed descriptions of their encounters, plans to meet while I was at work, discussions about how to handle the Gideon situation once Monica's influencer career took off. He's so predictable, one message read. Show up, complain about money, fall asleep watching the news. At least when we divorce, I'll have content for months. Divorce? She was already planning our divorce, discussing it with her ex-boyfriend like it was a business transaction, which, I suppose, it was. I forwarded everything to my personal email, then started making calls. My friend Raj worked in IT security at the bank. We'd started together as junior analysts 15 years ago, and he owed me more than a few favors. Gideon? It's 3 a.m, man. I need help recovering deleted messages from an iCloud backup. Can you do it? Legally or illegally? It's my wife's account. I pay for the family plan. Raj was quiet for a moment. Bring me coffee and I'll see what I can do. By noon, I had everything. Not just the recent messages, but months of deleted conversations. Monica's group chat with her influencer friends was particularly enlightening. They called me the ATM and shared stories about their various boring husbands like we were interchangeable accessories. But the real treasure was Monica's correspondence with potential sponsors. She'd been lying about our financial situation, claiming to be a self-made success, while I paid for everything from her designer clothes to her professional photography. She'd even used photos of my car, my watch, and my credit cards as props for her luxury lifestyle content. And I spent the afternoon crafting my response. Not an angry rant or a hurt husband's plea, something much more effective. A professional presentation titled The Real Monica Drew, a case study in authentic influencer marketing. It included screenshots of her private messages mocking her followers, evidence of her fake lifestyle claims, and a detailed breakdown of who actually paid for her luxury content. I sent it to her current sponsors, her talent agency, and every major influencer marketing firm in the city. Then I posted it to my own rarely used social media accounts with the caption, Transparency in Advertising Matters. Here's what authentic influence really looks like. I was back at work, pretending to review quarterly reports, when my phone started buzzing. First Monica, then her friends, then numbers I didn't recognize. I let them all go to voicemail. The first call I answered was from Monica's talent agency. Mr. Vance, this is Rebecca Martinez from Stellar Influence. We need to discuss some concerning information we received about your wife. I'm sure you do, I said. I assume you'll want to review her contract terms regarding authenticity and disclosure requirements. We're suspending her representation pending investigation. After that, the dominoes fell quickly. 3 major sponsors pulled out before 5 p.m. Monica's follower count started dropping as people shared screenshots of her private messages. The hashtag #ChutterFakeInfluencer started trending. My phone rang again, Monica sobbing. How could you do this to me? This is my career, Gideon. My life. Your life? I leaned back in my office chair, watching the Manhattan skyline through my window. The life I've been paying for while you mock me to strangers on the internet? I never meant... Those messages were just venting. Everyone complains about their spouse. Everyone doesn't build a career on lies while planning their divorce behind their husband's back. The line went quiet, except for her crying. Then her voice changed, became harder. You have no idea what you've done. Jules warned me you might try something vindictive. Jules warned you? How thoughtful of him. This isn't over, Gideon. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea who you're messing with. She hung up. I sat there for a moment, then started preparing for round 2. Because Monica was right about one thing, this was far from over. 20 minutes later, she proved my point by storming into my office building. Security called upstairs first. Mr. Vance, there's a woman here demanding to see you. She's agitated. Send her up. Monica burst through the elevator doors like an avenging angel in designer clothes. Half the office turned to watch as she marched toward my desk, her heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. You bastard! She screamed, loud enough for everyone to hear. You vindictive, pathetic little man. The entire trading floor went silent. Phones stopped ringing. Keyboards stopped clicking. Everyone was watching the show. Monica, I said calmly, not getting up from my chair, I'm at work. Perhaps we should discuss this at home. Home? What home? You've destroyed my career, my reputation, everything I worked for. Everything you worked for? I finally stood up, and something in my voice made her take a step back. You mean everything I paid for while you built your little fantasy life? She slapped me. Hard enough that my head snapped to the side, hard enough that the sound echoed through the office, hard enough that someone gasped. I touched my cheek, feeling the sting, and smiled. "Thank you," I said. "Now everyone here knows exactly who you are." Monica looked around the office, suddenly realizing that dozens of people were staring at her, many with their phones out. Her face went pale. "This isn't over," she whispered. "No," I agreed. "It's not. Game on, Monica." Monica's world was burning, and I had a front row seat to watch it happen. Her Instagram following dropped from 200,000 to 50,000 in 3 days. The remaining followers weren't fans, they were rubberneckers, waiting to see how spectacularly she'd crash. But Monica wasn't going down without a fight. She and Jules launched their counterattack on Thursday morning with a coordinated social media blitz. Suddenly, I was the abusive husband, the controlling manipulator who'd isolated Monica from her friends and family. They had screenshots, too, on carefully edited conversations that made me look possessive and demanding. Breaking. Influencer Monica Drew speaks out about abusive marriage. Appeared on 3 gossip blogs simultaneously. The articles painted me as a financial abuser who'd threatened Monica's career out of jealousy. I was reading the latest hit piece when Raj called. "They're good," he said without preamble. "Professional-level photo manipulation, coordinated posting times, even fake testimonials from anonymous friends. This isn't amateur hour. Can you prove the photos are doctored? Give me an hour." While Raj worked his magic, I made some calls of my own. Monica might have forgotten, but I'd been working in financial services for 15 years. I knew people who specialized in reputation management, crisis communication, and digital forensics. By Friday afternoon, I had everything I needed. Raj's technical analysis proved the screenshots were manipulated. He could show exactly which pixels had been altered and when. My crisis management contact had prepared a comprehensive response that included time-stamped evidence of the original conversations, but I had something better than technical proof. I had Monica's own words. See, in all their planning, Monica and Jules had forgotten about her group chat with her influencer friends. The same chat where she'd spent months complaining about her boring husband was now full of messages about their revenge plan. Screenshots of their strategy sessions, discussions about which photos to doctor, even Jules coaching Monica on what to say in her abuse survivor interviews. "We need to make him look obsessive," one message read. "Change the timestamps on those texts where you were asking for money. Make it look like he was demanding receipts for everything." "Jules thinks we should hint at physical abuse without actually claiming it," read another. "More sympathy, less legal risk." I released everything at once. Not just the evidence of their manipulation, but the behind-the-scenes planning, the calculated deception, the casual way they'd discussed destroying my reputation. I sent it to every journalist who'd covered the original story, every gossip blogger who'd taken their bait, and every social media platform where they'd posted their lies. The reversal was swift and brutal. Influencers' revenge plot exposed hit the trending topics by evening. Monica and Jules went from sympathetic victims to calculating villains in less than 12 hours. But I wasn't done. Jules had made this personal when he'd helped Monica attack my character. Time to return the favor. Saturday night was the grand opening of Jules's newest restaurant, Meridian. The event had been planned for months. Food critics, lifestyle bloggers, minor celebrities, all the people who mattered in Jules's world. I wasn't invited, of course, but I knew someone who was. "You want me to do what?" Serena Walsh, the gossip blogger, looked at me across the coffee shop table like I'd suggested arson. "I want you to ask some questions. About the health department inspection last month, about the unpaid overtime claims from his former staff, about the investors who pulled out after seeing his books." "How do you know about any of that?" I slid a folder across the table. Public records, court filings, OSHA complaints, all perfectly legal information that somehow never made it into any of his puff pieces. Serena opened the folder and her eyes widened. "Jesus, Gideon, this is comprehensive." Jules wanted to play in the big leagues. Time to show him what real research looks like. The restaurant opening was supposed to be Jules's triumph, his comeback after the social media scandal. Instead, it became a disaster. Serena's innocent questions about the health department violations led to other journalists digging deeper. Someone noticed the suspicious number of former employees willing to talk about unpaid wages and unsafe working conditions. But the real fireworks started when I showed up. I waited until the main event was winding down, when Jules was giving his speech to the assembled crowd about overcoming adversity and the power of authentic cuisine. Then I walked through the front door like I owned the place. Jules saw me immediately. His face went white, then red, and he actually stumbled over his words mid-sentence. "Ladies and gentlemen, I said, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "I'd like to propose a toast to our host." The crowd turned, confused. Monica, who'd been standing near the bar, looked like she'd seen a ghost. "To Jules Marwood," I continued, raising the glass of champagne I'd taken from a passing waiter. "A man who truly understands the meaning of authentic cuisine. After all, it takes real authenticity to serve reheated frozen food at $40 a plate while claiming it's artisanal." The silence was deafening. Then the whispers started. "What's he talking about? Is that true about the frozen food? Who is this guy?" Jules found his voice. "Security, get this man out of here." "Oh, I'm leaving," I said, setting down my glass. "But first, you might want to check the kitchen. I believe the health inspector is conducting a surprise visit right about now." It wasn't true, but Jules's panic was real. He rushed toward the kitchen, and I followed him, along with half the party guests and at least 3 journalists. The confrontation happened in the alley behind the restaurant. Jules was on his phone, probably calling his lawyer, when he saw me coming out the back door. "You snake!" He lunged at me, all pretense of sophistication gone. I sidestepped and he crashed into a pile of garbage bags, his designer suit tearing on the metal dumpster. When he tried to get up, I put my hand on his chest and shoved him back down. "Stay down, Jules. You look better in the trash." "I'll sue you for assault." "With what money? I hear your investors are asking some uncomfortable questions about those missing receipts." Monica appeared in the alley, her face streaked with tears and mascara. "Gideon, stop this. You're destroying everything." "I'm not destroying anything," I said. "I'm just letting people see who you really are." That's when Serena showed up with her phone, recording everything. The video of Jules covered in garbage, Monica crying, and me walking away calmly would have 3 million views by morning. As I reached the street, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're not the only one who knows how to play dirty." I stopped walking. The message wasn't from Monica or Jules. I had their numbers. Someone else was in this game now. Someone I hadn't seen coming. The anonymous message bothered me more than I wanted to admit. I'd been so focused on Monica and Jules that I hadn't considered other players in their circle. But someone was clearly working against them from the inside, and I needed to know who. The answer came Tuesday morning in the form of Haley Chen, Monica's supposed best friend, sitting in my office reception area. "We need to talk," she said when she saw me. Haley looked different than she had at the New Year's party. Less polished, more tired. The kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying secrets too heavy for your shoulders. "I sent that message," she said once we were alone in my office. "I've been watching this whole thing unfold, and I can't stay quiet anymore." "Why?" I closed the door and sat across from her. "You're Monica's friend." "Am I?" Haley laughed bitterly. "Do you know what Monica calls me in private? Her useful idiot. I've been managing her social media, editing her photos, writing half her captions, and she pays me in exposure and leftover designer clothes." She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots I'd never seen before. Monica's private messages about Haley were vicious, mocking her appearance, her financial struggles, her desperate need for validation. "She's been using me for 3 years, Haley continued, "making me feel grateful for the privilege of being her unpaid assistant, but I've been documenting everything." "Everything?" "The fake charity donations, the staged photos, the tax evasion. Monica's been claiming business expenses for everything from her gym membership to her grocery bills. She's been lying to the IRS for years." This was bigger than social media drama. This was federal crime territory. "Why tell me this?" "Because she's planning something big against you. Her and Jules have been meeting with some lawyer who specializes in destroying people's careers. They're going to claim you've been stalking and harassing them. They have fake evidence, manufactured witnesses, the whole thing." I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Monica and Jules weren't just fighting back. They were trying to destroy me completely. "What do you want in return?" "I want out," Haley said. "I want to disappear from their world without them coming after me. And I want them to pay for what they've done to everyone they've used." "Everyone?" "You're not the first person Monica's destroyed, Gideon. There was another guy before you, a photographer who helped build her career. She ruined his reputation when he tried to leave her. And Jules has a trail of business partners who trusted him and lost everything." Haley handed me a flash drive. "Everything's on there. Financial records, private conversations, evidence of fraud, witness statements from people they've screwed over. Enough to end both their careers permanently." I stared at the small device. "This is nuclear." "Yes, it is. The question is, are you ready to push the button?" I thought about Monica's slap in my office, about Jules's smirk at the New Year's party, about months of being treated like a convenient ATM while they planned my destruction. What did you have in mind? The plan Haley outlined was elegant in its simplicity. Monica was planning a comeback event, a charity gala to rebuild her image as a philanthropic influencer. She'd already sent out invitations, booked a venue, and started promoting it as her return to authentic influence. She's planning to announce her divorce from you at the event, Haley explained. Paint herself as a survivor moving forward. Jules will be there as her supportive friend, and they'll probably go public with their relationship. Let her have her party, I said, but let's make sure she gets the audience she deserves. We spent the next week preparing. I leaked selected information to journalists, always through intermediaries, always with perfect documentation. The story that emerged wasn't about Monica's personal life. It was about systematic fraud in the influencer marketing industry. By the time Monica's charity gala arrived, half the sponsors had pulled out, and the other half were sending representatives to investigate rather than celebrate. The guest list had changed from supporters to journalists, federal investigators, and former victims ready to tell their stories. I arrived at the gala early, wearing my best suit and a smile that probably looked predatory. The venue was beautiful. Monica had always had good taste when spending other people's money. But the atmosphere was tense. Guests were whispering in corners, and I could see Monica across the room, her smile looking more desperate than confident. Jules was beside her, playing the role of supportive partner, but even he looked nervous. They'd both seen the news coverage building throughout the week, the questions being raised about their business practices and personal conduct. Gideon, Monica appeared beside me as I was getting a drink from the bar. I'm surprised you came? Wouldn't miss it for the world. This is your big comeback, right? It's my chance to set the record straight. Her voice was steady, but I could see the fear in her eyes. To show people who I really am. Oh, I think they're about to find out exactly who you are. That's when the first protesters appeared outside. Not angry social media followers, but former employees of Jules's restaurants, carrying signs about unpaid wages and unsafe working conditions. Then came the victims of Monica's various schemes, photographers who'd worked for free, small businesses she'd promised exposure and never delivered, charities she'd claimed to support while keeping the donations. Monica's face went white as she watched through the windows. You did this. I didn't do anything except tell the truth. Amazing how many people wanted to share their stories once they realized they weren't alone. Jules appeared at Monica's side, his face flushed with anger. You bastard. We had a deal with the press. This was supposed to be neutral coverage. Deals change, I said, especially when one party has been lying from the beginning. That's when Monica snapped. She grabbed a glass of wine from a nearby table and threw it at me, the red liquid splashing across my white shirt and the marble floor. You've ruined everything, she screamed, loud enough for the entire ballroom to hear. Everything I worked for, everything I built. Everything you stole, I corrected, not bothering to wipe the wine from my shirt. From me, from Haley, from everyone who was stupid enough to trust you. The room had gone completely silent. Every phone was out, recording Monica's meltdown in real time. This wasn't going to be a comeback story. It was going to be a public breakdown viewed by millions. Jules tried to grab Monica's arm, to pull her away from the cameras, but she shook him off. No, I'm done being quiet. I'm done letting him destroy my life. Your life? I stepped closer, my voice carrying in the silence. Let me tell you about your life, Monica. You're a fraud. A parasite who spent years living off other people's work and calling it your own, and now everyone knows it. She tried to slap me again, but this time I caught her wrist. Once was enough, I said quietly. We're done here. I released her hand and walked toward the exit, leaving Monica standing in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by cameras and the wreckage of her carefully constructed image. Behind me, I could hear Jules trying to do damage control, but it was too late. The story was already writing itself, and this time, Monica and Jules were the villains. The charity gala footage went viral within hours. A Monica meltdown was trending worldwide by midnight, with millions of views across every platform. But that was just the opening act. Wednesday morning brought federal investigators to both Monica's apartment and Jules's restaurants. The IRS had received detailed documentation of tax fraud. The Department of Labor was investigating wage theft claims, and the FBI's white-collar crime unit was looking into wire fraud related to Monica's fake charity donations. I watched it all unfold from my office, feeling a satisfaction that was probably unhealthy but undeniably complete. My phone kept ringing. Journalists wanting statements, lawyers offering services, even a few book agents wondering if I'd be interested in telling my story. I ignored them all. This wasn't about fame or money. It was about justice. Thursday afternoon, Monica and Jules made their last desperate play. They showed up at my office building with a lawyer and a camera crew, claiming they were there to confront their stalker and demand an end to the harassment. Security called upstairs. "Mr. Vance, there's a situation in the lobby. Your wife and some other people are here with cameras, making demands about seeing you." "Send them up," I said. "Conference room B, and make sure our security cameras are recording." I'd been expecting this. Monica and Jules were facing criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and complete social destruction. Their only hope was to somehow flip the narrative back to me being the villain. They came up with their lawyer, a nervous-looking man who clearly wished he was anywhere else, and a two-person camera crew. Monica was wearing dark sunglasses and a conservative dress, playing the role of the traumatized victim. "Gideon," she said as they entered the conference room, "this has to stop. The harassment, the stalking, the systematic destruction of my life. I'm begging you." The camera was rolling, of course. This was supposed to be her redemption moment, the scene where the abusive husband was confronted by his brave victim. "Harassment?" I sat down at the conference table, completely calm. "You mean like the evidence of your tax fraud that I provided to the IRS? Or the documentation of Jules's labor violations that I gave to the Department of Labor?" "You've been stalking us," Jules said, his voice shaking with rage. "Following us, taking pictures, interfering with our business relationships. I've been sitting in this office, working at my job, while federal investigators do theirs. If you're confusing law enforcement with stalking, that says more about your situation than mine." Monica's lawyer leaned forward. "Mr. Vance, my clients are prepared to offer you a settlement in exchange for ending this campaign of harassment." "What campaign?" I spread my hands innocently. I exposed some lies on social media, provided evidence of crimes to the appropriate authorities, and defended myself against false accusations. "Which part of that would you like me to stop?" "The part where you're destroying innocent people's lives." Monica ripped off her sunglasses, her face red with fury. "We made mistakes, but we don't deserve this." "Mistakes?" I stood up, and something in my movement made both Monica and Jules step back. "You called systematic fraud, tax evasion, and wage theft mistakes?" "We never meant for it to go this far," Jules said. "We were just trying to protect ourselves." "By destroying me? By planning to have me arrested on false charges? By coordinating with lawyers to file fake harassment claims?" Their faces went white. They hadn't expected me to know about their legal strategy. "Yes," I continued. "I know about that too. Amazing what people will tell investigators when they are offered immunity in exchange for cooperation." Monica's lawyer was already backing toward the door. "I think this meeting is over." "Oh, it's just getting started," I said. "Monica, Jules, I want you to understand something very clearly. You declared war on me. You tried to destroy my reputation, my career, and my life. You coordinated lies, manufactured evidence, and planned to have me arrested on false charges." I walked around the conference table, and they backed away from me like I was radioactive. "But here's the thing about declaring war on someone," I continued. "You better make sure you can win. Because if you can't—" I gestured toward the window, where they could see protesters still gathered outside Jules's restaurant across the street. "If you can't win, you lose everything." Monica was crying now, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. "Please, Gideon, I'll do anything. I'll give you whatever you want." "What I want," I said, "is for you to face the consequences of your choices. What I want is for everyone you've hurt to get justice. What I want is for you to understand that actions have consequences." Jewel tried one last desperate play. "You're not innocent in this. You're vindictive and obsessive and—" I cut him off with a laugh. "Vindictive? Absolutely. Obsessive? When it comes to justice, yes. But everything I've done has been legal, documented, and proportional to what you did to me." The camera crew was still rolling, but this wasn't going to be the footage Monica and Jules had wanted. This was going to be evidence of their desperation, their willingness to lie even when caught, their complete lack of remorse for the people they'd hurt. "Get out of my office," I said quietly. "Get out of my building. And get out of my life." They left without another word, the camera crew following behind them like they were documenting the retreat of a defeated army. I sat back down at the conference table and looked out at the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere out there, federal investigators were building cases that would send Monica and Jules to prison. Somewhere out there, their victims were finally getting the justice they deserved. And somewhere out there, Monica and Jules were learning the hardest lesson of their lives, that there are people in this world you simply shouldn't mess with. My phone rang. It was Haley. "Did you see the news?" she asked. "Which news?" "Jules's main restaurant just got shut down by the health department. Monica's talent agency dropped her completely. and the FBI just seized her bank accounts. I smiled, watching the protesters across the street finally pack up their signs and head home. Justice, I said, is a beautiful thing. 6 months later, Monica Drew was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison for tax evasion and wire fraud. Julian Marwood got 2 years for labor violations and racketeering. Their appeals were denied. I kept working at Morrison & Associates, got a promotion, and bought a house in Connecticut with a view of the water. Sometimes I get emails from journalists wanting to do follow-up stories, but I always decline. The story speaks for itself. Monica wanted a fire. I just let her burn.